Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Challenge Battle of the Eras Season 40 Wrap Up Podcast for Episode 5. I am Brian Cohen. Here with me, as always, is my co-host, Ali Lasher. Ali, how are you?
It feels like it's been a long time.
I was thinking the same thing. It's probably because we did so much preview that we had the episodes. They had like a week off. It feels like we had another off season. So here we are. We're starting the season over.
I do, and I kept like panicking last week, like, oh my God, did I forget to record? Like, I forgot to leave a day open. I forgot to text Brian, and I was like, you don't have an episode.
Yeah, it's a long break, and I think it felt longer because I think this was probably the most like controversial week or 2 week stretch in like the history of the challenge. And I think we can blame us because of our conversation we had on the podcast where we said, amazingly, if there's anything going on about this elimination, we would have seen it out on Twitter. And I think if we recorded like 20 minutes later, the entire Twitter streets were on fire.
I stand by that because usually these people are ready to go. Like, this to me is a controversy. Obviously, we're talking about the last week's elimination with Horacio and Derek.
Yes.
Like, to me, Nerys would have had drafted her tweets like 6 months in advance, ready to drop at like 9:01 p.m. Eastern time. So I stand by that statement. But yes, we are experiencing like the harder we push to get our episodes out like consistently Thursday morning, like 6 a.m. whenever they drop, we do sacrifice knowledge of what's going on. So hopefully, a lot of people want to focus on what we get wrong, like forgetting Brad or not understanding the bands or about the targets. Or no one's focusing on what we're getting right. Like, we're here.
Mm-hmm.
We're here. That's we're getting that right. That's wrong for some people.
It's just so funny because as I was watching this elimination, we both had the same reaction of like being confused that Derek won. But there's been so much weird editing with eliminations in the past and a few other like weird things. Like, I don't know. I just thought they just kind of edited this thing weird. It was nothing too crazy. I don't think either of us could have had the foresight to really understand like how insane this got. The fact that I think in the first time ever, like I think people started tweeting out like this was like Survivor at 9:01 Eastern. Probst would have had a statement out explaining exactly what went down in this challenge. They would have had like a segment on like his podcast after the burn, whatever the hell it's called, discussing everything that went down and put everything to bed. I don't know, whatever it's called.
Someone check on Mike Bloom. I don't know if he's going to be okay after that one.
What is Jeff Rose's podcast called?
Like On Fire with Jeff
Rose. Fire. Okay, so there was a burn. There's fire.
After the burn is incredible. And you might need a prescription for that. But otherwise, it's incredible.
But like, never have the challenge producers come forward like middle of a season and like right after an episode or soon after an episode to explain what happened. They got Derek and Horacio on a call together, classic Zoom link to like watch the raw footage. They made statement like it's unbelievable how much they had to come forward to dispel a lot of like the conspiracy theories that were out there.
So yeah, so one advantage of putting a podcast out immediately before you hear anything about what's going on is that over the last 2 weeks, it has resolved itself. Like, I do think what we would have said on Friday would have been different than what has now like become clear, which we can get into. But one thing that was interesting to me is like how everybody responded differently. Like Jordan, Horacio, Nerys were very in the like, this was shady. I think Horacio won. Tori was very like, production has the final say, like production darling. Tori was like, and she's right. Like, I'm sure every contract, every challenge, every rule for every reality show is at the end of the day, the producer decides, so it'll never be against the rules. It's what we say at the time. Although I'm not sure, I assume. Naya was like a little bit devil's advocate on like a group chat with Nerys. So I just like everybody had a very different reaction. What surprised me, so that call with Derek, Horacio, and production, that wasn't like aired anywhere, right? I only saw the conversation on Challenge Mania with Derek and Horacio. Is that correct?
Yeah, I don't think that they definitely were. That was not like a podcast that was filmed. I don't think there was any sort of art. There might have been like an article written about it, but we never got them watching it with producers telling them like we didn't see that. We just got their retelling of what was shown and what was told to them and like what the rules are and like and everything like that.
Which kudos to Derek and Challenge Mania for like getting the real like exclusive scoop of the aftermath discussion on their podcast. Because I would have thought like MTV would have wanted some
I was thinking that too.
YouTube challenge official, like whatever.
Yeah. Do you think they only got it because it was like Derek? Like the Derek's like part of that podcast. Like if this was Horacio versus Jordan, like is one of them popping up on Challenge Mania to discuss it, or are they going on the official Challenge podcast to discuss it?
I really don't know. I think there's like a lot of production questions I have. Like I was, it's funny because you said like last week, like when we saw it, we were just like, oh, that was like a little sloppy, a little messy, whatever. And you said Survivor would have had Jeff come out right away. Like I almost think we are used to like a certain amount of like editing faux pas in the challenge that we like wouldn't accept maybe in like a Survivor. And I love it that way and I wouldn't want to change it. But like, even just the inclusion of like the smoking gun image, which was Derek's board missing a peg that they included in the like side by side after they called time. And it's like, why was that shot even included? Like they don't show us anything normally. Like, why are we even seeing that shot? Like, I feel like that was almost a mistake. So I don't know if MTV was just, or whoever was deciding this was just like, we want to clear this up because we care about Nerys and Horacio and Derek. And like, this is just swirling too much. Let's get them on. We'll show them what we've seen. We feel confident in the decision. And then whatever they want to say about it, they could like, we're not making this an official thing. We're just clearing it up for like, we have to address the internet.
Yeah. And I think coming away with it, it does seem clear. Derek, by the production footage and like the rules that they were told, seemed like Derek won. Now you could argue, and I think rightly so, that the rules are pretty stupid. And
we'll explain that. It's in case anybody only comes to us for their news, which God bless them.
A couple of the big things that were going around with the rules was, yes, obviously there was the clear screenshot at the end of it that Derek seemingly had a peg missing. And that's why Horacio thought he won. That's why a lot of people thought he won. But his peg had fallen and it was like caught on one of the rows. So it was there. And what the raw footage showed was before Horacio finished, Derek had his 39 plus the one that was hanging there up there for a little bit. And he was like running around frantically looking for his extra peg. Now you can get into arguments as to like, well, that's his fault. He should, if you miss a piece of a puzzle, there's all these other factors. But if the rules simply state, once you get 40 pegs on the wall, you win, which was kind of what was explained to them, then Derek wins. Then it's over. It doesn't matter. He could run around doing jumping jacks for all it matters. He had the 40 pegs up there. He wins. So that was like the biggest smoking gun evidence of why Derek did just win was the rules were that. Derek had that. And that's really it. Then there was also factors of the pegs were falling off. We saw in the episode, I think it was Derek made like a sliding catch. He knocked a bunch of them off. I think Horacio made him knocks them off at different times. And there was questions as to production. Some people thought production was helping Derek put more of them back up as opposed to Horacio. But production apparently made it clear that they would help them pick up the pegs. Like basically once the peg was in the slot, it was like the ball through the hoop. It counts. It doesn't matter anymore. So that again, now you could argue the stupidity of that rule. But if that's the rule, then that's the rule for this elimination.
Yeah, I mean, I think they also said that like Anissa had some pegs fall out. So like there was like precedent in the round before that they were doing that. So whether or not like, I think Horacio said he like didn't hear that, but Derek did. And that like once the peg was in, it counted regardless. I think like that to me strikes me as like a game time decision when like based on the pegboard, you're like, this isn't that secure. So now we have to let that like, we'll be here all night if we make them continue to put them in as they fall. If we know they're going to fall, if like the top row is going to fall when you put the peg in the bottom row in, like I can understand them being like, once it's in, and we're moving on. Definitely makes it hard for television because you want to see a complete board. So I understand why they wanted to show mostly complete boards. But yeah, I mean, it doesn't seem like there's fallout. Like you'd think like somebody like Nerys might be a little bit afraid because she obviously wants to have like longevity on the show to like really speak out so openly against production. And I feel like that's something we haven't seen. We haven't seen like newer folks. I feel like kiss the ring of the challenge gods more because you can make a career out of it. We've like often doubted like how much of them are they being honest? How much are they really saying? I feel like that was also kind of the case with like Leroy and Camilla. Let's say like, everybody's like interests aren't just I'm walking away from the show and I'm going to like say whatever I want to say. One, they're under contract, and two, they want to be invited back. So kudos for Nerys for like dragging them if that was her truth and that's her man and she, whatever. but she did get some negative reception because she wasn't even there to like really speak on it.
Right.
But all looks well because she did attend the VMAs with Devon and Tori, which I felt like was a little bit of a peace thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think all is well, question mark.
I think so. I think they needed to come forward with this and give like the full explainer. I'm glad MTV did, because again, I've always been of the belief like a lot of these like tinfoil hat conspiracies are a load of crap. A lot of them, like, people just want to fit a narrative. They'll go, it's rigged for this person. I like this person. I've never, for the most part, really buy into that. So I'm glad this one was more put to bed. Also, because it didn't make any sense, like, why they would rig it for Derek against Horacio
Right.
anyway. Like, this does not make sense for like the future of the show. So like even that at its notion didn't make sense. So I hope people caught wind of like what the aftermath was and don't feel as strongly as they do. But I'm glad they came forward. Good for Nerys to like get a conversation going more, as well as other people. But I'm glad it's done.
One thing that's weird is like Horacio, I think after the interview with Derek, still posted on his Instagram that he like was skeptical. And it's like, at some point you just kind of have to take it, like they've done more to clear this, they being production, than they ever will again, for anything. And I get it if it, like, to your point, if you think it's a bad rule that like pegs falling out should count, fine. But to consider it like an unfair, or you still really won or whatever, like, I think now it's a little bit sour grapes to continue to be like pushing it, especially because Derek, I think, did the classy thing and has been addressing it and being like, we could talk about it. You can come on my podcast. I could air this out, like whatever. So I think everybody else has kind of been coming to it from like a good sport perspective. And I didn't love the Horacio like extra kick, but he's a competitor.
Look, it probably was a bad rule, and what the problem is, honestly, is I thought this was like a great elimination, and I feel like after all this controversy, they could almost never bring it back because of just the memories it'll resurface. But it was actually like a really fun and clever one. I just think next time, instead of having them stacking on the wall, just get the can from Balls In that you don't really use anymore, and just have them toss it in the can.
Just
once
drag
in
in your office garbage can, and
right.
No problem.
Yeah, but other than that, there we go.
All right, well, let's get into this episode to catch up on who our targets are, in case the like very distinctive, clear purple armbands aren't sticking out to you. Era 1, we're gonna have CT and Tina on the table, Emily and Nehemiah on the table for Era 2, Devon and Tori for Era 3, Olivia and Kylan for Era 4. One thing that I thought was funny that we didn't talk about 2 weeks ago is like, and it's going to keep coming up, right? Because I think it's more of what happens with John A this episode. But like, when Josh says to his Era, which Jenny is a part of, that he's going to nominate himself, why does he have to volunteer again? Like, shouldn't Jenny have just picked him and not Kylan? Because like, she's in the Era, so she's in on it.
Yeah, that was always the confusing part. I think Jenny wasn't in the room, and for some reason, like, word must not have gotten to her that Josh was gonna volunteer.
That seems crazy. Like, I can't believe that, actually. I'm sorry. I can't even believe that.
I don't know, because it doesn't make any other sense as to why she wouldn't just pick him, unless she just didn't want to pick him and then just pick Kylan. But it was weird because it seemed like they were openly having the conversation on the platform of Kylan being like, Josh, you're not going to nominate? Why aren't you going to self-nominate? And Jenny's like, I guess I pick Kylan. Same thing eventually happens with John A also. Again, I don't understand the editing maybe of that, of like John A being like openly saying out loud before the pick is made, I don't feel like it's in my best interest to self-nominate. Like, why would, if we're trying to avoid attention, why would you openly say that before the decision is made? That was also weird. So, but I don't know. Some of the conversations on the platform are weird.
Yeah. Olivia confronts Josh about it in this Era 4 meeting, where that was also kind of confusing to me because she's like was relying on Josh going in, I think, to improve her like political standing as a duo to then not go in. So I don't disagree with her in that respect, that Josh has more social capital than Kylan. However, Josh is a more attractive person to see in elimination than Kylan, I think. So to me, it's really 50-50 on like, if Josh and Olivia were up for grabs, maybe CT would have said, like, give me the goof, as he's been known to say. So I thought Olivia kind of came out too harsh against Josh here.
Yeah, a little bit. A little bit. It's hard to really get too up in your arms about someone backing down from potentially going in against CT. It's like, I mean, wouldn't you not want to go against CT also? Like it was almost like so obvious that like of course you would back down, but gotta be met somewhere.
Yeah, and again, like Olivia being like, I want someone who's going to be a dog. Like, I want someone who wants to pee against it. Like, that's kind of like really not you, Olivia. Like, I know like you have come up in that era of like the Horacios, but that has never been like Olivia's game. So I don't know that she needs to be calling for that now. But we get a little nugget of wisdom from Josh of what happened last week that like people said
Josh
like,
pro tip.
yeah, hey buddy, people have heard you're going to go in. So now the big dogs are going to volunteer. Like CT's going to say, give me the goof and self-nominate. So you better not. So maybe Jenny, going back to Jenny, also got wind of that from Josh. And Josh was kind of like, I'm going to like say yay or nay. And you can honor that or not. Cause like, I think Jenny is pretty close with Josh as far as like her connections go.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if that's necessarily fully true. Like the Josh, that doesn't also make sense. Cause then like
I believe it.
Nehemiah's in, like he's not like a big gun. Also, the problem with doing that is like even if that's true, like Josh is in, all like 3 other big guns nominate. Like, what if Error 4 wins? Then you're like screwed. All the 3 of them are all kind of going against each other. So it's kind of a risk if you just to get the Josh thing. And Josh was well connected. Like theoretically, Error 2 or Error 3 wouldn't throw Josh in either. So it's not even like guaranteed that's going to happen.
I believe that this happened. I believe that this is like part of the reason CT stepped up. I don't think it's the whole reason, and I don't think it was like a slam dunk, but like I get it. I think the issue more from Josh, like the scare reaction, because like we see him step up against a very similar field, arguably better field of 3 targets at the end of this episode. I think part of it is the expectation that Era 4 is going to lose. And I think like they are more likely than not to lose any given challenge. So I'd rather not face CT and have a risk of facing like bigger dudes on other eras later.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
If like their era could win and whatever. Let's talk about the Darty. I hate that I said that. The daytime party action we get. And I guess we're just accepting now that Naya and Kyland are a thing because we're using their makeout to like transition into the party. Like we're not even discussing it anymore.
Yeah, we get that. We get a classic, very ominous clip about Brad talking about Emily, which raised the tentacles that Emily might be in trouble this week, or at least going into elimination. Brad very worried about Emily going to elimination, and then offers an odd reasoning saying, because she doesn't have the relationships that I do. When I feel like if we rewound 2 episodes, wasn't the conversation around Era 1 that Brad was like the fish out of water and no one was really connected with him? So what relationships is he talking about?
Maybe like 4 days in and he's feeling a lot better about his situation.
Because I could have sworn all the guys were like, oh, we could just vote in Brad, whatever. No one really cares.
I don't know. It's like not untrue, but it's not like comparing it to him is probably the wrong move. Like he should be like, I didn't self-nominate also because I don't have connections. Like,
so that was odd.
A lot of, I was going to say hypocrisy. I don't want to say that Brad was being a hypocrite, but like what we're going to have to do tonight to talk about Laurel and Cara is going to take this. It's going to take, frankly, the strength of our younger selves. Because I really feel like this is pretty vintage, like Challenger Hap Up coverage. Like we haven't really had to like get this ugly, I feel like, in a while.
Us?
Like talking about something this ugly.
Oh, okay.
Like,
well, I feel like there's been ugly things, but yeah.
In like recent, I just feel like it's all like, yeah, it's been ugly, but it's like, I don't know. This felt visceral to me. Obviously, everyone knows I have the memory of a goldfish, and I like can't remember how I felt yesterday. But what I am saying to you today is like the feeling I had watching this basically hour-long traumatic expression between Laurel and Cara, like really impacted me in a negative way.
And what's so interesting coming into the season, obviously, like Laurel and Cara is like the focus, and I've always found them to be the most interesting pairing. I do think it's almost morphing into kind of like Jordan and Tori territory, where it's almost like it's like enough. Like we just watched Jordan and Tori, which is only looking back on like one season, have like so much back and forth after their broken engagement, and it was like enough. It's like in our faces like so much. Maybe because we just went through it with All Stars a little bit, but it almost feels like it's like enough with Laurel and Cara. Like, yeah, they hate each other. We know, like, we've done this song and dance now so much. It's like exhausting to like rehash this. Like, we got to do something else.
Yeah, it's giving Melissa and Teresa on New Jersey 2 seasons ago. Like, there's a point where it crosses over into the, like, it's no longer fun. It's not Wes and Bananas, who are like in-game rivals, who are gonna like be chill at the event afterwards, you know, like, and it's in the game. It's like really personal, like so deeply personal. And what's hard to speak out against this is like, that's the benefit of the challenge, that these relationships run so deep. Where it blows up is when these like really toxic relationships where these two people should have just never seen each other again, and in a normal world never would have seen each other again, are now forced to work together, and they just actually can't. And like, whoever you want to blame for it, you know, like whatever, not you, just the general you. At this point, the two of them just should never be on the same season, which is like something I never thought I would say. Like, it just has gotten so, it's either gotten so much more toxic so quick, or frankly, I just had a bigger tolerance for toxic behavior in my youth when we were watching them back in the day. But like, I just think it's not just like two people who hate each other. It was like deep manipulation and like psychological warfare. Like, it was just beyond the bounds of what I'm interested in watching on television.
Yeah, I think why it wasn't so bad back in the day, because I do think there was a lot more interest in it. Like, they were just coming off much more closer being friends. Like, they were very close leading into Rivals. Even like after Rivals, they had some rekindling and they were kind of back together. It just feels like they've been such disconnected for so long that I'm almost like losing interest in it at this point. It's like, yeah, they hate each other. Laurel wants the big sister. Cara wants to break out of the little sister. Laurel gaslights Cara. Cara butts herself into conversation that really have nothing to do with her. No, they know how to get each other under each other's skin. And then they each take like, worse for Laurel to Cara takes like the absolute worst shots you could take verbally, outside of like, I guess, like Amanda wishing like someone's horse died. But other than that, like, they're just so manipulatively mean to each other. Laurel much more mean to Cara, but Cara does know how to like start the fire. Like, but her jumping into like Laurel and Michelle having like a pretty interesting conversation was classic Cara. Like, that had literally nothing to do with her. She could say like, "Oh, I'm looking into my past self," all she wants, but that had nothing to do with her. Michelle and Laurel having a very cordial, interesting conversation about they just don't mesh well, and Cara butts in and starts the parade from there. And then Laurel, like she's done in the time and time in the past, drops a nuke on like a sword fight, and it gets like very ugly.
And maybe I'm defending Cara in this situation because like I would have done the same thing, which doesn't help. But like, I'm seeing my reflection and it's ugly. Like, I don't love what I see. But like, I don't know. Like, first of all, Laurel criticizes that Cara cannot get over that Laurel sent her into an elimination. And meanwhile, she's dragging Michelle for sending her in when seasons ago when they had no relationship and she hated her. So like, pot kettle, like, Laurel's standards are so like, don't apply to herself so much that it irritates me to no end. Laurel started this war with Cara this season. If Laurel had done what she's kind of done with Emily and some of the other strong women and just been like, I'm playing to win, I don't need any of you, I'll cannibalize my own team, I'm looking towards the final, so I'm getting the strong women out, and if that puts a target on my back, so be it. I'll come for you. You get power, come back for me. That would be fine. That would kind of be fun and cool. Like, that would be like Jordan. That would be like the Wild West. Like, that would be crazy. Instead, she sets these fake rules with Cara. Like, Cara, you are so untrustworthy. We can't move with you. And like, you have to go in, like, whatever. Like, she's not like kind of giving her the recognition as a competitor to then stab her in the back. She's making it personal. So now with that stage set, of course, Cara is going to walk in on Laurel, what I thought was dressing down Michelle. Now, it's interesting that you say it was like so interesting and like a collegial like discussion. Michelle was like, I thought, trying to like for the 8th time appeal to Laurel, and Laurel is just like, you sent me in. Like, yes, they weren't yelling. But otherwise, I didn't think it was like
I
that
guess that's my
collaborative and
standards.
fun.
I guess my
Yeah, like,
standards
and
for
that's
Laurel.
Laurel's standard too. And that was so irritating when like all she had to say to Cara was like, "You're yelling." At least I respect Michelle for not yelling. But she walks in on a classic Laurel dress down of Michelle, basically being like, "You threw me in when I was evaluating if I could trust you, and now I hate you." Okay, Michelle's like, "Okay, boop boop, I'm gonna go." If I were Cara in the environment, I would 100 be like, "Michelle, that's okay. I'll be your friend." Like, that's what this is the best social game Cara has played in seasons. Like, collecting people who feel bad for her and who don't like Laurel is the game she needs to be playing. Does that intentionally piss off Laurel? Of course it does. But to me, it's all a part of the stage that was set when Bananas and Laurel did the insane move of sending Cara in the first elimination. So, all of that said, yes, I can't only blame Laurel. Cara, I agree with you, knows what she's doing, knows how to get under her skin. Like, they both have this like magnetic pull to each other. Frankly, I think because they would be great friends and have been great friends and have love for each other. But now it's so toxic. It's like Nicole and Laurel. Like, you just gotta, there's no working this out.
Yeah. No, it doesn't seem like there's any coming back for them at this point, for sure. Yeah, I mean the point was very true. Laurel, because it was like one scene earlier about her talking about Cara can't get over the fact that she threw her in and then coming at Michelle the same way. But yeah, I my standards for a Laurel blow up are a little bit different. So I did think that was like a challenging, cordial fight conversation that I appreciate. It was fun to see Michelle try to work her social charm and see if it would, break down the walls. Laura wasn't having it. It did seem like maybe could have been some progress being made at some point. I think the timing of it, like Cara could have. I agree, Cara should be trying to pull in Michelle, but like not right in front of Laurel's face. Like let Michelle storm off a little bit, wait till she's in the kitchen, and then say that to her. But Cara wanted to stand there and listen to the whole conversation, and she had her moment to jump in.
Yeah, and like when Laurel is saying like this is so draining, I can't be forced into a friendship. I do think Laurel is quick to transition away from like the logical arguments and like talking about the fight and jumps into instead like you're yelling or you're draining me or let me have the floor, you're rolling your eyes. Like she just like is letting she's not focused on the argument. She's like distracted by the things she can win. Is like, I'm criticizing you for yelling. I'm criticizing you for rolling your eyes. That was pretty hysterical when she's like, let me have the floor, stop interrupting. And Michelle was like, I literally haven't said anything. She's like, but you looked like you wanted to. That was insane.
That was
like,
very funny. No, he's a crazy person. Laurel is absolutely a crazy person. Like 1,000%. But
so this is why I don't do exit press. You're gonna have to go talk to her and be like, hey Laurel, it's an honor to speak to you. And it will be, and it would be my honor. To be clear, it would be my honor to speak to Laurel.
But
I simply cannot.
Like, we know Laurel's a crazy person. So that means Cara absolutely knows Laurel's a crazy person, which is why it's crazy to say even like to Michelle, like, oh, I'll be your friend as Laurel's getting heated. Like Cara should know. Like, I know that's like victim blaming, but it's to a point like they know each other so well that Cara knows her doing that is going to get Laurel pissed.
No, Cara is not floating around as the queen of right in the sea of wrong. Like, I think she is definitely a part of it. Like, as you know, Emily spoiler says in her Comra vote, like she contributes. It is like a toxic circle of history. It is also, I think, as Emily's like gassing Cara up and is like, I'm so proud to see you like step out of her and not let her control you. So now she's like, yeah, I'll fight with you. I'm not scared of you. So like, I'll take my shots when I can get my shots. And like round and round we go. The one thing I do also want to dog Cara for is like the conversation with Emily when she's like, she's targeting you and Michelle because she's not confident and she like hates herself. I thought was also a bridge too far. Like I thought, like if I'm just like flagging crimes, like whoa, again, like just deeply, deeply personal, like hard to watch that and ever come back from it. Not that I ever think they're going to come back from this, but like pretty tough.
Quick sidebar, but the challenge needs to decide if All Stars and USA exist in the challenge world or they do not. Because we have the clip of Laurel in their argument being like, you're just mad because I beat you in All Stars 4. But then we have the clip of Nehemiah being like, the last time anyone has ever seen my existence was back in Rivals. And we're like, no, Nehemiah, you've popped up a couple times since then on All Stars. So like the challenge needs to acknowledge if these shows exist and are part of the canon of the universe or if they're not, because it's getting quite annoying.
Yeah, that Nehemiah thing jumped out. I think generally we accept that All Stars exist, right? Because like John Nay's whole threat level is sitting on the backs of her like back to back All Stars wins, and they like talk about that. So like, I think the criticism has to be like just own that it exists. It's the consistency. Because they could have still said like, I guess we say the challenge proper. Like they'd have to be like, they'd have to come up with a name for whatever the challenge proper is,
I
so
think
that
they
he
call it
could
the
say
flagship. I've heard that's when I say challenge proper on like Exit Press. People usually say the flagship back to me. So I think the
Okay.
flagship is what it's known for in the biz.
Okay, well that would be weird. Let me start again. They need to come up with a better name because the flagship sounds too metagame. Like that sounds like press about the show. I feel like if you were on the show, not that they shy away from the meta, but like, yeah, I mean, I guess he should just be like, the last time I faced CT in elimination, I lost, and that would have been enough. Like that would have been juicy enough.
But it's even crazy because like Nehemiah, you could argue is like one of the stars of the All Stars franchise, and it's made like deep runs. And it's crazy. It's just like him being in the last time anyone has seen my existence was CT eliminating me in Rivals. Like, no, it's not, dude. You're back on this season because of what you've done at All Stars recently. So it's like wild that it's just wild.
No, I agree. That like went over like a lead balloon too for me when I was watching it. I was like, totally. All right, let's wrap up this Cara and Laurel stuff so we don't have to come back to it if that's okay. So it was very interesting to see Cara call out Laurel for unleashing on Darrell. I was glad to see Darrell get a little bit of justice there. Oh, we all remember that.
Yeah.
And I think our first Taylor Swift quote of the Era's season.
What was that?
When they're going back and forth of saying like, who's the problem? I thought Cara was making like a little like, I'm the problem, it's me. It's like, you're the problem, it's you. Like a little illusion. Maybe not on a Swiftie, but it felt like a little Swiftie thing to me. I do want to give Laurel like a D- for her use of the childhood adage when you're pointing at someone, there are three fingers pointing back at you.
Is that like the original Spider-Man meme? I didn't really understand that.
So that's like what you say. It's like, of some ASS, you and me makes an ass of you and me. It's like a little like adage of like, don't point the finger. When you accuse someone, there's three fingers pointing back at you. So like, consider your own fault in it. Like, don't be pointing fingers. I think the adage predates the Spider-Man meme. I think that would be like when you point two hands at triplets, there'll be two pointing back at, and anyway.
Like two. That's why you have 2 ears and one mouth. You do twice as much listening, that type of thing.
Yeah, obviously that hasn't come through to me in either of my ears, but yeah, I thought she like really thought she ate with that, like she really thought she had something, and it just it was Tina. Can I ask you if you think alcohol was the enemy in this fight at all? I couldn't really like place the time of day.
No, I really don't. I think they were seemingly all like dead sober. Although I don't know, maybe they're like drunk all the time.
Like, I don't think that's true.
Like Tina, apparently, I thought you weren't allowed, but Tina maybe was like drunk the night before her elimination. But I thought they were like dead sober.
I think Rachel really said it perfectly because she was like, there was a chance for a new story on this season, and I think. Some people didn't think that. Some people did. I feel like I've always believed in Cara and Laurel's like friendship underlying like the mess. And this is the first season where I feel like I've really turned to be like, all right, this is soured beyond repair. Like we're kind of donezo here. But like Rachel says, like there was a chance. Laurel threw in the first chance she got. And now we're done here. And like we are done here.
We're done. Yeah, we're not though, because it's going to escalate even further next week. So,
is it?
I mean, seems like Cara's going to like blatantly throw the daily to try to get Laurel into elimination.
Great, good. That's what Laurel's been doing. I learned it from you. Yeah. Then we get like, I'm just like looking at the rest. I did enjoy the like flashback to like Rivals and All Stars, and really like catching anyone up who's either just joining us for season 40 or a new viewer. The one thing I did want to say is like, I do believe, and this is what I think makes it hard, is like, I don't think Laurel thinks she's done anything wrong. And I do
No.
believe she believes her narrative that like Cara is specifically antagonizing her and that Laurel genuinely would be there for Cara. And like, Laurel forgives all of the wrong she's done to Cara and excuses them as like necessary for the game or not that big a deal. And focuses on the things she has done for Cara in the past of friendship and is like, it's unbelievable that you would care about the things I've done wrong and not care about the things I got right. Similar to what I said at the beginning of this episode. Yeah. I now I'm just like saying things that happen, but I just like really think it's beyond repair. Where do we go from here though? Like, do you think we're gonna still see them on a future season? Do you think MTV agrees that this is kind of the end of it?
No, definitely not. I don't think so. I think they're fine bringing them both back. I mean, I don't see why not. It hasn't gotten to the point. It may feel uncomfortable and awkward to us, but it hasn't gotten anywhere close to the point where they're throwing out like slurs and things like that would get banned.
Sure.
So I don't think they're gonna get banned, and I don't think they would each reach the point where they would say no to each other, because I don't think either of them would want that out there, that one of them said like, I'm not doing it with her or vice versa, because I think they each want to have like that upper hand on the other one. So I don't think that will ever leak out. So I don't think they'll ever say it. So I think 41, if they want to, they'll both be there.
I could see Cara, if any of them, if anything, pointing to that, because we've seen her willingness to take a long break. I mean, Laurel too, but I feel like Cara would be like, this is no longer like safe for me. I don't feel like mentally well in this environment, so I'm walking away. But yeah, I mean, I don't think, I didn't mean it because it's like getting too egregious to show. I just do think I think the fans are largely with us and are going to get tired of this quickly. And like Jordan and Tori is a great analogy, but I feel like they had a specific sort of temporary reason, heartache and ego, that they were like having these fights, and they've like, good for them, gotten to a really good place. So I just don't see that being possible for Laurel and Cara.
And I never really got to the point of being done with the Jordan and Tori of it all as quickly as other, like the internet seemed to got. I thought a lot of their early conversations were actually super interesting to watch, like a post-divorce couple try to like navigate the challenge world. Maybe by the end of it, I was like about done with it. But for me, I never really got to that point where it does feel like we're just doing the same things over and over again with Cara and Laurel. I almost need like for them to be interesting again. I need them to be friends and like see what that next chapter would be like. Oh, look at these two coming back together and working together. They're like a great tag team from like wrestling that are back together. Let's see how they could dominate the world. And then if they have a falling out, at least that's like a fresh story. Right now, we've been on like this negative wave for so long that if it wants to be interesting, they need to like come back together. But I don't know how that's gonna happen.
I totally agree. And it's funny. That was like really Theo's reaction. Like he was like, we've been doing the same story. I feel like Theo left for a few seasons and came back and was like, we're really still doing that. Like you're having the same fight. I haven't been here. I've had a kid and like now we're doing the same thing. But yeah, I mean, I agree. And I really, like Rachel, was optimistic that this was going to be the season. It was like Laurel got her jollies, beating her in All-Stars. They kind of like obviously had tension, but kind of walked away like you and me, 1 and 2. Now Cara, like Laurel and Nicole broke up. So like Cara was right about her concerns about Laurel and Nicole. So I really just thought like if there was going to be a season, it was going to be like, you know, the way that Rivals has healed wounds before of couples we never thought would, like pairs. I thought this was the time. I did not anticipate Laurel, rightly or wrongly, deciding to like attack all of the strong women in the house. And yeah. We'll see where this goes, I guess, but I've lost interest.
Should we shift to the daily?
I was going to shift to the Devon and Michelle relationship reveal.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's kind of been like soft launched a little bit through this season. But here we got a great clip of Olivia looking into the camera.
The best clip of the season.
Look that way. And it's Devon and Michelle finishing out a makeout. So that was very funny to see them going about. Yeah, it's fun to see the young love. It's very more real. I thought what's so funny is like they were so like
they're like our age, Brian.
I know. They were so coy about it after the season that I really didn't think it was going to really develop much through the season, or if it was going to start, it was going to be like near the end of one of their runs. But it seems like they're like, who knows how far they go. But it seems like it's going to like develop really through the season. It's kind of like surprising on how they were acting postseason. They hit it very well, honestly.
I thought they were like publicly together.
But they made like a joke about it. Like when they first posted about it, it was like, oh, like with one of them posted like on their story and like just like tagged them. It was like,
Oh yeah, I didn't believe it, honestly, because I thought it was a bid for attention, because it was not a normal launch. It was like a Devon style launch. It was like a reality TV bid for attention launch, so I didn't believe it. But I mean, I feel like they like launched it though.
I guess so. I don't know. I thought it didn't seem to me like it was like, it seemed like it was very new when they posted. That's why I thought they were like being coy about it.
Gotcha.
But it seemed like they were going to be together for like months.
Yeah, and I want to say, like, from negative to positive, I love how Devon talked about Michelle. It's like, I know my rules are like, you don't date, but like Michelle Fitzgerald is a rocket. She's funny. She's smart. So like, and she's the exception. Like, I thought that was really cute, and I was like shipping them anyway, but now I'm like really shipping them, seeing how he talks about her.
Did we even know that Devon was like in a relationship? I thought he was actually single most of the time.
I think that's like somehow how like Devon knew something about being a mercenary. Like there was like some bit of information. Oh no, Devon dated that woman who was like the first eliminated from that season. I think her name was like Jess from Australia or something. And that's the last time I heard about like Devon being in a relationship. But yeah, it was a very just like relatable, true to life story of like, we've been friends. And I think what Michelle's saying is like, I wouldn't have ruled him out in the past, but he hasn't been available. And like now we're in the house and there's opportunity. And like we stand the Jersey couple. I don't know if Devon lives in Jersey, but Vacation Alliance. I like that too. Speaking of relationships, we get like this weird dad style check-in with CT, which I thought CT was single for this season when he's like asking Bananas, like, who are you eyeing? Let me live vicariously through you. A little creepy from CT, but a little bit. Are you surprised we never got Bananas like talking about what happened with Mariah?
Yes, actually, because in my head, I was honestly jumping to trying to remember the time frame with Corinne from his House of Villains run. I don't think they were like serious, but I think they had at least, I mean, they had a flirtmance on the show. I thought they like dated a little bit post show, but I guess nothing serious enough. But yeah, that is kind of odd that it hasn't been brought up, but I guess because it's Bananas, it's not really that odd at all.
Yeah, he doesn't have to bring it up, but like, I kind of think that, I thought that conversation with CT was only because CT was, they were going to cut to like a Banana style just a Bananas confessional being like, yeah, last time you saw me, I was in a relationship. Now I'm single. No more dating in the challenge. Like whatever. All right, let's talk about Nehemiah and Devon, because this like really sets the stage for a later beautiful snake moment from Devon, where Nehemiah appeals to Devon's ego, and I thought he really did a good job being like, you're a genius, you're really smart, like you play this game really well. What do you think about us like aligning as targets, and like we're gonna decide before the daily that we won't say each other's names?
Yeah, it's kind of the exact conversation you want to have, because a lot of people, you know, we saw like Bananas mention it being like, oh, I don't really treat some of these conversations for real because, you know, they only come up to me when I was in a position of power or when their back was against the wall. So good to like try to get ahead of it. And it was almost the cardinal sin that Devon made. Normally, if someone proposes a deal to you on a reality competition show, the obvious answer is just to say yes. There's no harm in it. It is unbelievable how well it worked in his favor, of how he was able to turn it around. But it was kind of very surprising that Devon wasn't more committal to it. I wonder if you may have had like a different reaction or different conversation if he wasn't target paired with Tori, because obviously that's like very much his number one. So like if it was someone that he wasn't as close with, that he honestly didn't feel like he would have to run a decision by, maybe he would have acted differently. But the fact that he was with Tori, I fully believe him that he's not going to commit to something without checking with Tori first. So maybe that was also kind of fortunate timing wise.
Yeah, see, I read this more as like Devin did not want to agree to this. And I thought, like, of your same thing, exactly what you're saying, of like, usually you get screwed if you say no to a deal. But I thought Devin pulled this off artfully, and that, like, regardless if it was Tori, Nehemiah made a major I mean, first of all, he bet on the wrong horse because he probably figured odds are my era, his era, gonna win. And that was like a pretty good bet to make. It just didn't work out. So I like the swing from Nehemiah, but I think the bigger miscalculation is not doing a meeting of the four of them. Like, why exclude the women? Like, they don't have any say or power. Right. I think that was a huge misstep. And Devin was able to really perfectly take advantage of that and be like, I love this. I love you. I think you're so strong. This is so great. Let me just talk to Tori because I can't decide anything without her because this obviously impacts her. So that's him basically saying yes without having to say yes. And then just like never. Now, they later say they did circle back and decline. We didn't see that on television. So when I was watching it at first, I thought like, oh, they just didn't have enough time. Nehemiah grabbed him late and like kind of the perfect, like it was the perfect way to weasel out of that deal. But unless Nehemiah wins, it's a bad deal for Devin because he's closer with like every other team. And I think Nehemiah and Emily are the least connected to him. So, and Nehemiah and Emily are very strong. So, like, they're the obvious pair that he would put in. So, I didn't think he wanted to make this deal regardless of Tori and that was just his excuse.
Yeah, Devin's one of the people that doesn't need to really make many new deals anyway. He definitely is one of the more connected people. His connections are some of the more connected people. I thought it was very smart for Nehemiah to try. It was worth a shot. I think of all the people to approach it with, Devin, I feel like is the one who would be most amenable to this type of thing. So I think it was absolutely the right person to target. But I think to your point, he really probably should have done it to Devin and Tori simultaneously at once, even not even like circling back. He probably should have just like pulled them both aside. That should have been the starting point. But I think it was very smart by Nehemiah. Just ended quite badly.
Maybe it's something where like if you don't like he does have leverage because he could win. Like his team, like era 2 is a strong era. Like they could theoretically win. But when you're talking to somebody who doesn't really need your protection, maybe you just say it. Like a conditionalist, like, hey, I want to work with you. And as a sign of that, like, I will not say your name if we win today. And you like walk away from that such that if they win, it's like, you shouldn't put me in because remember, I told you, like, I made a commitment to you that I wouldn't put you in. And then you're just like begging from the bottom rather than like expect that he's going to make a deal with you.
Right. Yeah, that's
in
probably another move. Yeah, but I mean, the only way this was going to go horribly wrong is exactly the way it went horribly wrong. Like they both had to be the two pairs in the middle fighting to stay out of elimination, and that's how. Like if one of them loses, one of them wins. Like this doesn't necessarily matter as much. It's because they were both in the middle that this went very, very badly.
Yeah. And like, I think also really like Nehemiah could have gotten out of that. But like, I think we'll talk about the deliberation. I think that was just such a botch. Really, that's where the botch was. But let's talk before we get to the daily. Josh is pushing against the Vacation Alliance. And I'm almost like, I'm sure like the Vacation Alliance was brought up to him, but like the edit did him no favors, like kind of cutting to him talking about his own alliance, trying to dismiss it. And it's like all of them, Tori, Devin, Josh, like they're just doing too much. Just don't talk about it. Everybody has friends. You don't need to be like, why is everyone saying we're such good friends? This is crazy. Like it was a lot.
It was a lot. It was amazing. Like the internet got like a shout out. Like they're like, the internet has done this, the Vacation Alliance. Like, shout out to the challenge Reddit and Twitter. Like, you got your shout out. Here it is. You dubbed it a little Vacation Alliance.
The tweets were amazing because they were all like, we love them. We love this alliance, the Vacation Alliance. And then there was one tweet that they included that said, there are so many better alliances than this one. Give us the OGs. It's like, I love that they like screenshotted hate and put it on TV.
Right. And honestly, the fact that they found a couple that were positive, they probably had to do some quite specific digging to find those. So good for them.
All right, let's get to the daily. You know what'd be cool, which I meant to say to you off air, but like, because you give like Scott the ad break time, and I've been listening to a podcast that like throws it to commercial, and I'm like, that's so cool. Like, we should really be like, we'll be like, all right, we'll be back talking about the daily after this break. We're back, like let's, but like then then you'd have to like mark it down.
I just did.
I don't
There
know.
you go. We got it.
Okay, great.
All right, and we're back. The daily for this week. Fast Pass. Very Survivor-esque type challenge. You have to navigate a Y-shaped structure through the jungle to collect 4 sandbags. Bring them back. Do it again and collect another 4, and then use those 8 sandbags to balance them on like a measuring thing.
Yeah, I like thought this challenge was fine. But I was a little sad at like starting the arc of like, ooh, CT is gonna give us his experience, like tilt it and shimmy it through, and then it like completely blows up in his face, and like seemingly that's why Era 1 just like falls apart. And I was sad about that. But the challenge was like good materials.
Yes, and I wonder if this is gonna be a theme. Like I think about not to drop another Big Brother reference, but Big Brother had a big scandal when they had to like shift into like showing like only the top 3 scorers for an elimination. And now I wonder if they're gonna really emphasize and they did it in the daily or did it in the elimination. You have to make sure you first one to hit the buzzer. You hit the buzzer, you win. And when they're gonna start emphasizing like the specific rules about how you win after the Horacio stuff. So let's clock that to memory. If they specifically mention how you declare you win, and it's over at every single one of these.
Yeah, because usually we would notice that, and then there would be like, oh, and the guy didn't do it right. But if they're just like saying it and there's no payoff, then yeah, that's a good spot. One thing we also haven't really talked about, because it hasn't really been an issue, is like, you know, how they're playing with these teams with varied numbers of people. So like this is the first one where like Era 4 is down 4 people at this time, and the everyone besides Era 2, Eras 3 and 1 are down 3, and Era 2 is down only 2. So Era 2 has a 2-person advantage over Era 4. It has stayed pretty even, but this is the first one where I was like, ooh, just like even one extra person would be a huge help in carrying this.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. I was like trying to do the math of like, oh yeah, it doesn't seem too out of whack. And like, yes, I think having an extra person would help carrying it, but this is also the type of thing where having that extra voice almost might cause more chaos, especially with all these people. So I think, yes, all things being equal, you'd rather the extra person, but it's certainly not a drastic advantage like we've seen in challenges in the past where having just one extra person really matters that much.
Also, delete your tweets. I misspoke. Era 1 is down 4 people. Eras 4 and 3 are down 2. And Era 2 is down
so
2.
what is it? So Era 1 had 6. Era 2 had 8. And 3 and 4 had 7.
I mean, that's some quick math. Yes.
Okay.
Because Era, well, I already marked off for these people, right? Era 2 had only lost Brandon and Kellyanne. They had only lost people from their first elimination. Right. And then Horacio from Era 4 and Tony from Era 3. So, yeah, interesting. But yeah, I guess like the kudos to the challenge gods, because it hasn't been that off kilter. Although, and I don't remember what I've said in the past, haha, but I don't mind if like a tribe is getting decimated for their own losses. I think what we've complained about in the past is when like Asaf and Raven and Zara were like randomly assigned because they like mix the pairs at every challenge. And then that's when like someone shouldn't just luck into an advantage based on random draw. Also, why can't I remember my name, but I can remember that team of 3? Honestly, like take me out. Like that's like so upsetting.
There is also like a very big difference between like 7 pairs of 2 and 1 pair of 3 than like 8, 7, 7, 6. Like having the
even if it was 8-3, like I wouldn't care. It's getting if like the tribe is getting decimated from their own losses. Them's be the breaks.
Them's be them breaks.
All right. Anything else in the chat? I'm just like yada yada yada.
Not much. I mean, Tina and CT arguing, but they kept it classy. They apologized after. No harm, no foul.
Wasn't that beautiful?
I guess there was some harm they lost, but you know, in terms of that.
And
Laurel
then
threw it apparently, but I don't know how much she like factors. Like, did she really throw it? I don't know. I guess she stopped carrying it at a certain point. It seemed like it fit like a good narrative that Laurel said she wanted to throw, but I don't know how much like deliberate action she had in said throwing.
Here's the like problem of like Laurel being annoying this season is like I love this. Like I think it's so interesting that Laurel is confident enough to be throwing challenges, decimating her own team, because it also makes you less likely to be chosen as a target unless your own era person wins. So like if your target gets eliminated from your own team, why would anyone from the other eras nominate you to be the target? Because they'd want you to continue to throw the challenges. So it's perfect. Like, and it begs the question, like, does that make it interesting and does that make this format work? Or do the non-targets, so the people that are safe, need more of a motivation to win, a la a prize, a team bank account, an advantage, something?
I don't think that is what's going to cause issues with this format. I think people want to throw it. I find like that could be interesting in certain parts. I think what's going to become more of the issue, and then we started to see with like Era 1, is when it's like 2 men left and there's no decision. It's just like this person's in this week, this person's in the next week. Even when there's 3 people, like when we get down to it and you're deciding between 2 people every time, that's not that interesting. So I think that's what's going to, for me, want them to like combine into 2 teams or even 3 teams, like total mix up and have maybe 3 something. Because I think once you're just going back and forth, you're just doing dailies and eliminations and waiting for some fight to happen. Other than that, there's no talks.
Yeah, I mean, assuming that team like loses, like, you know,
even any team, like if they get down to like every team having 6 people, there's like almost no decisions to make on like
they can basis. Like I think Laurel is accurately projecting that this is not going to be a team challenge to the end, just based on the challenge in general, and also like the format can't work that way. But like I'm not there yet, even though it's going to be Rachel Tina. Like I still think that that's like the scrappy kind of Matt Singh, like interesting little team, like the little team that could. But agreed, like that can't take us to the end of the season. We're only on episode 5, so right. I do think we're coming up on a switch up sooner. Yeah,
I think we probably have, like, this is episode 5. I think we are done with this by episode 8. I think we're done.
Oh, see, I think it's going to be not next week, but the week after. I guess that's not that different. Only because, spoiler alert, I think the return of the karma points has to indicate that those karma points are going to matter soon. Like, because I always thought they were going to matter at the switch up because of something TJ said. So maybe not. That's just like a rough theory. And I just think it's like odd for them to come back into play this episode. So to me, I was like, prediction, this is going to merge. So I actually thought that the next week on was going to be like the teams are done, and then they weren't. So I was like, okay, maybe an extra week. But I'm never right. So it'll probably be at the final. I did like Tori reminding us, like, as a reminder, I'm on a team with my ex-fiance, but they have like normal inter-team issues, right. Not like anything stressful or more stressful.
Correct.
Okay, so Era 4 wins, Era 2's in second, Era 3's in third appropriately, and Era 1 loses. Why I keep writing Era 4 when I mean Era 1?
It's because they don't have, this is the problem we said at the jump. They shouldn't be called by the numbers. They should have been team names.
But we had team names and we don't use them.
We don't use them at all. That's classic us.
We knew we were never going to use them.
Never.
Okay, so it's going to either be Emily and Nehemiah or Tori and Devon facing Tina and CT. And just like, honestly, I'm pleased with the edit because like there was just no effing way it was going to be Tori and Devon. And I appreciate that they didn't like lie to us and make it seem like it was going to be Tori and Devon.
Okay, so that's so interesting. Why wouldn't it be? Because to me, this screams, I'm like, I don't care how much Nehemiah is fumbling the bag here. Why wouldn't they throw in Tori and Devon to break up? What they've brought up is the closest alliance in the house and all their tentacles. Like Olivia, she might want to be friends with Tori and Devon. She is like choice number 8 for them when it comes down to it. Why wouldn't they throw in Tori and Devon?
Because Olivia is connected to Michelle, who's connected to Devon and Tori. And Kylan is connected to Naya, who's connected to Jordan, who's connected to Tori.
But that's so far though. Like to me, like, and I think this type of format, like all it takes is for one of those like 6 people to be the other option. and you're going in. Like Tori and Devin have the most like unbreakable pairs, and that's like the most dangerous thing. Like if for Tori, if Devin's in the mix, if Jordan's in the mix, you're screwed. We saw that with Tony. Like in the beginning, like Tony was screwed because he was going up against Jordan and Devin as options. Like there was no chance he could do it. For Devin, like there's no like if you're in the mix against Tori, like you're screwed. And now if you're in the mix against Michelle, you're screwed. So like if it's choice between like Michelle and Olivia down the road, Olivia's screwed. Tori and Olivia down the road, Olivia's screwed. Like break those people up where there's zero chance of penetrating.
Yeah, so I think Olivia and Kylan both saw this happen from different vantage points on their last season. So it's even potentially more frustrating of like Olivia saw what being like seventh in line in an alliance is compared to like her best friend Nerys and like, trying to get in line there and it blowing up in her face. And Kylan was like on the outside of it. So you'd think that they would be good, like quote unquote disruptors.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's safe to assume that eras 3 and 4 are like pretty closely working together and like we can make it so eras 2 and 1 go in or whatever. And like I think the other thing that really moved the needle here is that Emily and Nehemiah are an incredibly strong pair, not in alliances, but they are just two strong people also. So if you had two weaker people, like frankly, the Derek and Anissa versus Jordan and Naya situation, like that's harder to justify to me, like why you'd want to eliminate Anissa and Derek. But I agree with CT and oh my God, Tina's estimation that like there's no material physical difference or like final difference in my mind between Emily and Nehemiah and Jordan and Tori and Devin. So it wasn't as crazy of a decision for me for them to keep the peace, keep building their relationships for future seasons, for the future of this season, get in the good graces of the people who are in power, make their boos. In this case, I'm making Michelle Olivia's boo, but like make their like number ones happy. I can live with it. Do I understand like why you're saying like go for the jugular, cut the head off the dragon? Yes. I just think they feel like they're building something here and this is their like ticket into that alliance.
I guess so. I just think you're trying to break into something that even if you break in, you're so far down the wrong. And it's the most dangerous alliance to try to get into again, because it's not just their friends, it's like there's no chance of them turning on one of them. Like they've shown in the past they will go to the final with each other regardless of like who they feel has the best chance of win. They would rather all go to the end and some of them lose than risk it and cut Jordan near the end or like cut Tori near the end or cut Devin near the end to save you. Like it's just not going to happen. And now like Jordan's in the mix and like he just showed he threw a challenge to Laurel or like there's no getting in there. So you might as well get like a Tori and Devin are like kind of at like the center of all these people. If you knock both of them out, all the pieces you might want to pick up scatter, and you might be able to pick up. All of a sudden, Michelle might be your number one because she doesn't have now Devin in the mix anymore. Like now, Jordan's like scrambling a little bit more, and like there's other people you can work with. Like with Tori and Devin there, there's no getting in.
Yeah, but if you're Olivia and you put Devin in, Michelle is not going to trust you anymore. Like, I just like that is a move you can't do. You could say Kylan did it, and maybe she'd be fine with that. But like, you can't burn the number one of your number one and become their number one. Like there's just an element of mistrusting there of like, why did you eliminate my best friend? Now I don't trust you. But it would be cool. I think we're probably seeing again more of a result of an alliance between the two eras, more like at a greater level, potentially, but more so probably Olivia and Kylan thinking for the future of the challenge and not necessarily this season.
I guess,
which is frustrating. Go ahead.
But to Laurel's, like what Laurel's thinking is like she knows this structure is not going to last very long. Like the eras are going to like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever. It's going to disintegrate. So who cares if era 3 is helping you now? Like that it might. By the time you're potentially going in, the entire format might be different, and you're screwed when you're on the chopping block next to Tori down the road or something like that. Like, there's only a few more weeks probably of like these eras able to even like work together.
And that's what's interesting about being such a big cast with such a spread from the eras is sort of like, well, Rachel, Laurel, Aviv, like there are other people still here who will care more about getting Tori out than you. Like in a way, Tori's a meat shield when they go to the individuals because like Laurel's out for the blood of the strong women and Olivia's probably not on her radar, someone to be intimidated from to go to the final. So maybe they're also figuring like somebody else can do this dirty work. There's enough people hungry to attack these people as opposed to a regular season where they'd have like a huge majority. I don't know. I also think like, yeah, that Vacation Alliance is becoming too big to fail because depending on the cast and depending on the season, 80% of the cast could be in that alliance or connected enough to that alliance via romantic interests or best friendships. And then you're Michelle last season. And it's like, how do you keep Berna happy when she's not in your real alliance?
Right.
So yeah, it would have been cool. I just wasn't surprised to see it from two people who are trying to like get footing in the show itself.
I guess so.
But you could still be pissed at it. Look, drag him.
I'm pissed. I think it's the wrong move. So definitely.
But I don't think it really had anything to do with Nehemiah's poor performance. Now, maybe it did, and that rocked Kylan more. It didn't help. So now, first of all, it would have been very interesting to see. Like, I'm very happy that Josh didn't go into this elimination because I think it would have been way less interesting if Josh and Olivia were in power than Kylan and Olivia. Although I think there was no change in the result.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it's a very interesting question. If we've, I don't have an exit press right now. If we have it down the road, I would love to know. Like, did the decision flip at the Chamber of Commerce, whatever the heck that is down there? Like, didn't that discussion?
Tina called it the Chamber of Revelations.
Chamber of Revelations, even better. Or was it pretty much locked in? It's. I would love to know if Nehemiah. Like this fumbled the bag so hard, but then also by doing so knocked CT out. Like if Nehemiah had the better argument, does Devon go in and does CT beat Devon? I don't know, probably, but who knows?
It was tough because Nehemiah first starts with like the Vacation Alliance, which I think is your argument, which is like you're never going to get in there if you haven't had the conversations you want to have yet. They've been happening without you and about you, and I thought that was a great start. I think Devon's little pitiful, like Tori's my number one girl and my number one guy spot, Kylan, is open. Like, be so for real, because we know Jordan's number one guy, like Tori's number one guy. Anyway, so I think he does a good job at first setting the stage as you have. I think Devon artfully, perfectly, masterly deploys that you proposed a deal to me and we didn't take it. And you could not by the beauty of the reactions for Tina and CT. Like they were like giving everything.
Yeah, it wasn't it was a big time foot in your mouth moment, and even Emily was trying to salvage it, being like, "But you took the deal, right?" And Dev was like, "Nope. Actually, we came back and said no because we wouldn't be put in that position. We're not gonna choose, between the everyone else in this group. We're much closer than, and I don't go back on my word." Which I feel like there has to be. I wish I knew the history like the back of my hand, but I guarantee there's been instances where Devon has gone back on his word on some deals, and I wish they had the footage to show it. But he sold it pretty well. Of like, the deals I make, I stick to.
Well, let's say this: Devon had no friends for a long time and was not a threat at all. So the reality is like Devon didn't need to go back on his word. Devon wasn't in power. Like early Devon was terrible at this show. Like him and Cheyenne were not cutting deals with people that they needed to honor. And then Devon got so deeply baked into this alliance that he also has never had to cut any betray anyone because he's so well insulated. So to me, I don't really have respect for I was not a big enough threat to need to make deals because nobody cared. And now I have too many friends, so I don't need to make deals.
Right.
That's not such a triumph to me.
Yeah,
I mean, it's great gameplay, but it's not I'm so loyal. I think he would go back on people's deals if he needed to.
Yeah, he deploys it so artfully and beautifully that it almost was the point where if they were going to vote in Devon and Tori, just how masterfully he lays this all out, you almost have to tip the cap and be like, all right, you got us. We're not going to vote you in because this is just brilliant. And Nehemiah, sorry, bud, you got blown up. Your mafia spot got blown up. You're in.
Yeah, he lets Devon control this conversation into being about like, okay, well, you were obviously going to throw Kylan and Olivia in if you had the opportunity because you cut this deal with Devon. I thought Nehemiah needed to shift that. Like, Tori makes a better case for why Devon should go in the confessional than Nehemiah does. Of
Mm-hmm.
like, Devon's beat some of these big dogs. Like in any given Sunday situation, Devon's got a better chance of taking out CT. And isn't that what your focus should be? Is
Right.
like, I'll never come for you. I'm not coming for you. I'm coming for the big dogs. I want Devon to go beat CT. I would have put CT in. Frankly, I thought Era 1 was going to win because we had just come off the heels of whatever, some bullshit challenge. My goal was getting out CT. I don't know, just like lie. Like,
Mm-hmm.
like say, and like reframe the narrative. I've lost to CT. Devon will beat CT. That's what
Mm-hmm.
you should be thinking about. Just who cares
Right.
if I made a deal with him?
Last time anyone saw me, I was losing the CT. Obviously, I'm going to lose again. Like, put in Devin.
But I think actually what I'm underselling maybe, which we didn't see, but Kylan tells us that Nehemiah lied to Kylan and told Kylan that Devin approached him for a deal. So maybe that also had a lot to do with the change of decision. It's one thing to find out that someone was cutting a deal against you. It's another to find out that they lied to you, like point
Mm-hmm.
blank to your face, kind of for no reason, like a little desperate lie.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
tough.
Look, everything was pointing to like Devin won this argument or debate, but I still think no matter how bad Nehemiah was in this chamber of mysteries, it was the move to try to get Devin sent in, but not gonna happen.
One thing we find out a little Lindsay Hubbard action. Rachel is activated, and Rachel is sick of
Love that.
Devin running the game, and she's gonna deploy Tina because Tina's wild and crazy and will do whatever. Where was this going? Like, are we gonna see Rachel like come for the Vacation Alliance?
I hope so because that would be unbelievable. I mean, Rachel has to be a target next week, so she gonna like try to navigate it to get one of like the vacationers in there with her. I don't know, but I was waiting for the follow up scene. We never really got it of Rachel being activated. I would love to see it. That would be a lot of fun. So looking forward to it.
I was like, maybe she's gonna have Tina go in and be like, actually, I really want you to put in Devin and Tori. Like that, I
That's
was
where I
like,
thought we were
oh,
going. Yeah.
that'd be wild. All right, let's talk quickly about the John A. CT conversation. Because again, like to quote the toast, you can never make me hate CT. But like
But
this edit was a little weird. Like
yeah.
John A is like going to CT being like, I don't really want to throw myself in. And CT is being really fake to her, is like saying, like, I totally understand. That's like the number one rule of the game. And then going to confessionals being like, what is she, the mayor of Challengeville?
It was very odd because I thought John A was being very sensible. Like she just watched a couple weeks ago Tony blow up his own spot, do something stupid, get thrown in. Like she doesn't want to do that. And what everyone seemingly should preach for years is don't go if you can avoid elimination, avoid elimination. I feel like CT that's always CT's mantra too. Avoid elimination at all costs. It was very bizarre to hear him in confessional saying that John A is doing too much. Da, 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 da. It's like there's not coming out of nowhere. John A was preached to throw herself in like the very next week that she's got to make a decision in like 6 hours. So it's like very much top of mind. I can't remember any time like I don't think CT and John A have any type of beef. It was like very bizarre that he would be coming at her so oddly in confessional.
It made no sense. And like again, I've been waiting for these nominations like to fall apart because like John A should not self-nominate. She would not be the person that would be picked. Like if you want to pick me. But like she feels like she's got good relationships with Nehemiah. She probably feels like she had a good relationship with CT if he won too. And like for them to be having this conversation, she's probably having this conversation largely strategically. Maybe that's what he means. Like maybe she's talking to him as a roundabout way to be like, so don't throw me in. I do not want to be voted in. I don't want to
Right.
nominate. And maybe that was like the too much, but I don't know. I think like John A would be stupid for volunteering and she should let the chips fall where they may. And I think she'd have a good chance on a normal season of not being the person they picked to
Totally.
go in.
Yeah, it's smart. Look, if you're the way this game is set up, you have to politic to the opposite sex because they're the ones making the decision. So I mean, CT did this back at Rivals too. He was like, that was the structure of that season. The women were voting in the men, vice versa. He had all the girls lined up beside him to keep him safe. So it makes all the sense in the world that John A would try to cozy up to CT and pick his brain. A couple of multi-time challenge champs.
True that. Before we go to the arena, Emily runs a guided meditation, and I just want to flag that the participants in this are just not the ones who need to be there. Like Janae, Naya, Josh, and Aviv, centered, like like Om. They don't need to be there. They're killing it.
We would pay for one of Emily's meditation classes. That sounds fun.
How much?
Not much. I don't know. $50.
Oh, $50, not much. Wow,
most.
money bags over
most.
here. Okay.
At the most.
Ooh. All right. We go to the arena, getting hammered, right up our alley here. The Drunk Can of Challenge podcast.
It's giving vibes. Yeah, maybe I have to think back of some of the other ones they did, but it's very similar to one of the eliminations. I think it was All Stars 4. Yeah, All Stars 4, where they had to choose your own adventure elimination. You had to hammer the things into the wood. This time there are 100 nails in a block. You have to take them all out, hammer them back in, and then hit the buzzer. If you don't hit the buzzer, you don't win. You have to hit the buzzer.
So I think you, me, and Dupree all thought probably Tina is going to lose to Emily in this elimination, just going in sight unseen.
Right.
Then we see the elimination, and I'm still kind of like, this feels like maybe more endurance, but it is kind of equalizing. Like, maybe I don't know who's got the edge. And then we hear that Miss Tina does woodworking as a hobby. And I'm like, oh shit, are they trying to make it seem like she's got a chance? And then the way, if you do not watch the show and you're like, oh, I just listened to the podcast, we love you, we appreciate you, watch Tina attack this board. It was something to see. I was like, I'm like, have chills thinking about it.
She needs an HD TV show. Like, pair her up with Kim Spradlin of
Take my
redoing
money.
houses. Like, it was unbelievable. I mean, look, this is definitely the type of thing where technique, takes over. I keep thinking about like Jordan with a sledgehammer. Like, you can be as strong as you want. There's like a way to hit a sledgehammer that works. There's a way to take out nails and hit nails that work better than others. Tina's got it on lock.
She strips this board like she's washing a window. Like, this was light work for your girl. I was so blown away by this. And what was even more amazing is that then when Emily and Nehemiah and CT try to mirror the technique, they cannot do it.
Right.
Seeing her do it, seeing the masterclass, they still can't do it. That's how skillful it was. I'm really going to be thinking about this for a long time. Cuts to me forgetting next season, but I hope to be remembering this for a long time.
Tina's been great this year. It's funny. Like, she's had some couple of rough All-Stars appearances, like with quits and not wanting to be there. And I was even questioning, like, I feel like they probably could have had a couple other people instead of her, even as iconic as she is. I feel like she kind of dropped a little bit in my eyes with her All-Stars, but maybe she only should live on the flagship because this is where she thrives, and she's been great.
There you go. And then Emily's first elimination loss, and boy, what a loss it was. Absolutely demolished, obliterated by Tina. Nehemiah and CT a little bit closer. I think Nehemiah wins by like 5 or 10 nails for my unexpert eyeballing. Going into this, I was like, I feel bad because Nehemiah, I feel like keeps kind of like coming up short on All-Stars, and like I'm rooting for Nehemiah. And I think we've said this for years, for seasons, that like Nehemiah is somebody who could come back to the flagship. I don't like the flagship. Come back to challenge proper.
Yeah.
From All Stars. I'm not pressed. That's your press. But like, I can't lose CT. But we did.
Yeah, it's interesting. We all thought we might have lost CT last week during like trivia things when it seemed like he would have got knocked out. We lost them this week. It was unbelievable. I thought this was almost more surprising because at least for the Tina one, that was like pretty quick. It's like, oh, Tina knows what she's doing. Like this could happen. As the CT Nehemiah thing was going, it was like back and forth. It's like, oh, we got the Nehemiah jump in viewership. He had his whole scene. He flamed out in the Chamber of Commerce. It's all going to fall apart. So this storyline makes sense that CT is going to win. And even when Nehemiah won, I was like, wait, he actually won? It like he didn't score. Like it's real. It was genuinely one of the most surprising results I've seen in the challenge elimination in quite a long time.
I agree completely. I think even like TJ says it, like Like, you guys are both underdogs. I'm willing to say it. Like, you both won. But even with CT, I haven't said this anywhere despite having 300 hours of preview coverage, but like something never really clicked for me this season. Like, I didn't feel like this was CT's season. I didn't think he was going to get carried out in a stretcher and not come back, but like it almost felt like a little bit old CT. I know he's going on some stuff in his personal life. Even like he's saying to Bananas, like, I'm living vicariously through you. Like, he's kind of playing the role of like the old dad instead of like the CT we know and love, the young dad CT. So he was moving a little slow in this challenge, as would I. But I was kind of like, you know what? Maybe Nehemiah is a little, I don't know, I said it so weird. I almost said Nia and then Amaya. Maybe Nehemiah is a little bit hungrier. Totally. And that's okay. And we'll see CT again. I think Nehemiah really, really wanted this. It really meant a lot to him. He gets his props from CT. And like, I can live with that.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. This felt like I don't think if this was season 39 or season 41, I don't think CT's here. I think he made an effort to come here because it was season 40 for the monumental status of it all. And yeah, I mean, look, he's won a bunch recently. Like at some point, your thirst for more wins wanes a little bit. I'm sure he would have loved to win season 40 for the status of it at all. But yeah, like Nehemiah, like of all the people coming into the season, this was like the biggest chance for someone like him to do really well and really like stamp his mark back into like this world. And this was like an enormous win. And hopefully, you know, we don't have like a couple seasons from now and it's like the J of it all, like CT avenging himself against Jay for losing like that elimination or something like that. So I hope this goes really well for Nehemiah because he, of all the people this season, I think he like wants the win the most.
Totally. All right, so let's get to the new targets. So era 1, it's going to be Brad and Rachel. So I guess we confirm it can't be Tina again because I feel like TJ says like TJ kind of assigns it to Rachel. I know we had some discrepancies on like what Anissa said and what everyone said.
Well, what Anissa said was like still makes no sense because it definitely couldn't be Tina because you can't be the target. But like what Anissa said was like basically like if you're a target, you're free for 2 weeks, which is just not the case. So I still think Anissa misspoke or like misunderstood what I was like asking. So Tina couldn't be it, but Rachel has to be it.
So era 2, it's going to be Laurel and Bananas. And Laurel, of course, has to say that Nehemiah doesn't know how to play the game. Okay. But I do think a lot of this is residue from that meeting when Bananas and Laurel were in power and Nehemiah was the one spearheading like, we want to have a say as an era. We want Jordan gone. And Laurel was like, absolutely not. So you're back on the block, girl. You're back on the block.
Yeah, I mean, I think most of the house is Team Cara at this point. Like we saw a couple of people like Kylan poke his head out being a little bit like, I'm Team Laurel. I'm Team Laurel over here. But I think for the most part, everyone is Team Cara. So it's not surprising that when someone's in power, they're siding with Cara.
And then Corey volunteers, and we have that moment we've already talked about with Janae, where she kind of like subtly shakes her head to Nehemiah, and then someone must have said something that got edited out. Like someone must have said like any volunteers again, or like Janae, why don't you volunteer? We've been up, like whatever. But it does seem like, you know, she dogs herself for saying like I shouldn't have assumed that Nehemiah wouldn't have put me up, but like, why not have a single conversation with him about it? Because like there's nothing more humiliating than making a big stink about not self-nominating and then Nehemiah for Nehemiah to be like, it's gonna be you.
Right.
A reverse Justin Timberlake.
Yeah, the whole thing was very odd. Like I almost think Johnny made that comment after being picked. Like she was like chosen and then she was like, well, I didn't want to self-nominate, but because I'm picked, obviously I'm in. So other than that, it's a little bit weird, but yeah, probably should have hedged her bet a little bit if had the similar conversation she had with CT having with Nehemiah. Maybe she did or something like that, and like that's why CT said she was doing too much because she's like bouncing around talking to all the guys potentially. But yeah, not the best. I'm worried about John A. I feel like they're setting her up to like have a bad fall next week. I don't want to see it.
So Josh volunteers, which is interesting because Bananas is in the mix, so he's not as afraid of Bananas as CT. But yeah, I think he just was really on himself. He gets a weird thing where he's just like sad boy, where he's like, none of the guys wanted to see CT in the sand, especially me. So that now he's weird.
That was very bizarre. Like he like dropped his head and saw him. Like that was bizarre.
I think he's ashamed. I think he's ashamed that he chickened out. What was the weirdest thing to me of all of this is that Nehemiah picks Jenny, because if we're going to go back to like the vacation lines and the spokes of that wheel and how basically Kylan and Olivia picked Tori and Devon to be safe, why Nehemiah would take a shot at a woman outside of that alliance like Jenny, put her in again when Casey and Michelle haven't been targets. I have the targets listed. So like they're due, and I don't know how they've escaped this.
It's bizarre. It was the most bizarre
Maybe
pick
Casey
of them
was a
all.
target, but like it's just very strange.
It doesn't make any sense why you wouldn't, like specifically Michelle, at least, right? Because like obviously that's very much like with Devon. Like Devon screwed you over. Go after his girl. Like that's
Oh yeah,
crazy
Olivia's
to not.
probably safe, right? Are Olivia and Kylan safe because they won? Like I still don't
Yeah,
even know.
yeah, definitely
Okay.
couldn't pick Olivia, but
All
he could
right.
definitely
So
pick Michelle.
Michelle, yeah.
Yeah, it makes no sense that he wouldn't pick Michelle, especially because Michelle hasn't been picked, so there's an easy out there. And again, also Devon's just like threw you under the bus hardcore and is in your head maybe like the reason you're in. Go after the girl he's hooking up with. It's crazy.
Yeah, but it is interesting. I do think Corey and Janae are going to be in a tough spot in terms of like their connections in the house, like lack of connections in the house. I do think people need to be thinking more about like who they're volunteering with as a partner.
Mm-hmm.
I also think Brad and Rachel are in a tough spot. So maybe it is a good time for Josh to step up.
I mean,
as
you
long
would
as they don't
think.
lose.
I would think though, like if Bananas and Laurel are in that 2-3 spot, I think everyone's voting them in. So I think if anything, maybe it's actually like the best. I mean, I wouldn't want to go up against one of Bananas or Laurel, like if you're in the bottom. But if you're worried about being in that like 2-3 spot of being voted in, I think going in against, like being up against the vote with
That's
Bananas and Laurel is
true.
probably the best spot to be in.
I guess I keep forgetting how soured everyone is on Laurel right now and how distant Bananas is from the main connection in the house. Because as I improperly asserted last week, is like I think of Bananas as having repaired his relationship with Devon and being good with Tori and being good with all of those people. But I do think, especially with like Anissa out as like the older connection in that group, like maybe Bananas isn't so in with them. But it'll be very interesting to see like who's in power and who decides. Because honestly, if Jenny and Josh win, I think that's the best shot for Laurel and Bananas to not get sent in.
Or yeah, I guess would they?
Or I don't know where Bananas is at with Rachel and Brad.
I mean, Jenny and Josh don't really have much connection with Brad or Rachel, or I mean, Josh and Corey. Yeah, I mean, they're not really that close. Yeah,
well,
Rachel. Yeah,
Rachel actually was Team Cara, so maybe would be gunning for Laurel and Bananas, especially seeing how Laurel's like been targeting the strong women. So I think an Era 4 win is the best case scenario for Laurel and Bananas, probably.
Yeah, unless they keep like the Era 3, Era 4 truce. But I guess it depends who lost.
And I think Janae and Corey are probably the most distant from Era 3. Like they're not in the nucleus where maybe Era 3 wouldn't be mad.
Yeah, I would think if Era 2 wins or Era 1 wins, they're going to take a shot at Era 3 or 4. I guess, or Bananas and Laurel. Take a shot at any of them.
We'll see. All right, let's, in the spirit of Miss Tina, in honor of her, let's get hammered and talk about the drinking game.
Yeah, shout out Kyle Picard. Got the numbers for this week. A total of 14 for this week. 2 of them confessional animations. A CT pro tip. I don't know what Derek A+ is. What's that? I guess I keep forgetting. This is from last week. We should probably do this at the top of the show.
A+. Also. So I've thought of that, but then it kind of like derails. Like maybe.
Okay. It's tough.
But Derek A+, I have flashback. The rules are flashback / picture frame. Someone references the hourglass. Anyone mentions their family. Dual confessionals. Someone says karma. There's a fun animation. Oh, did Derek get like an A+ on that list or something? Was there a fun animation?
It must have, yeah.
Whatever.
We defer to
Kyle, so whatever.
When in doubt, drink, remember. Six people volunteered to be a target. He noted 2 times the pictures came to life, and 4 people talking about their kids and family. A lot of talk about the Cheyenne gender reveal.
There you go. All right, I'm gonna add. It's a little low hanging fruit, but I think it could extend further. Anytime somebody says the name of an alliance or names their alliance. So if anyone were to call back to the Young Bucks or what were the Kings? What was Nehemiah and Tech?
Oh, yeah, that was a fun one.
The castle, King Castle. Oh, I'm right there. So that's my new rule.
This is gonna be on the docket, but it's probably not gonna happen for a few weeks. But because we talked about it, when the game changes, I think when the game changes up,
Just
maybe
one
finish
time?
your drink. Just finish your drink.
I'm trying to Google the name of that challenge. Oh my God. I thought I'd be able to find it. MTV. I Googled King
So curious
Castle,
what the
Tech
Google was.
Nehemiah, then challenge, then MTV. What'd you say?
I was gonna say I was so curious what the Google
Palace.
search was.
King's Palace. Was that
King's
it?
Palace. Yeah, that's it.
It didn't
Wasn't
come up.
there
I
was
just
like a
got
song
there.
too, right? Wasn't there like a fun chant?
There was.
Yeah, that was fun times. But we haven't seen Nehemiah since Rivals, so this is all in our head.
All right. Want to give us the answers to the connections?
Yeah. Dun-dun-dun-dun. It was Jenna, Darrell, Cam, and Jordan. A couple people got it right. It was making the final in your rookie year.
Slay.
Mhm.
All right. Thank you to our 5-star reviewers, GT Chris and AR Diaz 08.
Ooh.
We appreciate you. I tried so hard again to look at the Spotify reviews and I could see how many we have, but I just cannot read them. But thank you to those who have written there too. We appreciate you.
Love it. Give us some more. We'll be back. Episode 6 next week. You can follow me on Twitter, Cohen_. Challenge wrap-ups on TikTok. You can follow you.
You can't follow me, but you can check me out here and you can join the Facebook group, Thriving. A lot of great predictions. A lot of people expected Nehemiah and Tina to go home. So it's pretty funny that they ended up in the elimination, correct prediction, but won.
We were at 849. Can we get to 1,000 by the end of the season? Is that too lofty of a goal?
Wow, we're so locked in, Ryan. We're so dialed in. Because I was just like, wow, we're kind of close to 1,000, but I don't want to push it. But yeah, why not? We always meet our goals, but we could not. It would be okay. Let's do that. Join us. It's really fun. I kind of missed the activity this week, but then we did have some activity.
Yeah, I think someone I saw someone posted they ran into Corey at a game. People are meeting these people, throwing up the photos. Love to see it. A lot of fun. Keep posting. All right. We'll be back next week. Till then, have a good one.